Good afternoon. I'm Theodore Hertzberg. I'm the United States Attorney for the Northern District of Georgia. I'm joined today by Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Peter Ellis, and Assistant United States Attorneys Samir Koshel and Alex Sisla. The four North Koreans pictured on the wanted poster between AUSA's Koshel and Sisla are Kim Kwang-jin, Kang Tae-bok, Jong Pong-ju, and Chang Nam-il. They've been charged in a 5-count wire fraud and money laundering indictment arising from a remote IT worker embezzlement scheme. Specifically, the defendants are accused of stealing and laundering at least $900,000 worth of cryptocurrency. The indictment, which was unsealed today, is the culmination of cooperative investigative efforts by the FBI, the National Security Division of the United States Department of Justice, the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia, and our foreign law enforcement partners. The indictment alleges that the defendants stole approximately $740,000 from an Atlanta-based blockchain startup, which is identified in the indictment as Company 1, and stole approximately $175,000 from a Serbian virtual token development company, which is identified as Company 2. Some of you may be familiar with North Korea's remote IT worker program, but for those of you who are not, the gist of the program is this. North Korea dispatches operatives around the world to obtain remote IT jobs to generate revenue for the North Korean regime. When we talk about IT, many people may think of technical support jobs, but in this context, we're using that term broadly to include all kinds of computer programming and engineering jobs. These IT workers engage in a long con, hiding their true identities by using fake and stolen identities to secure employment with foreign companies. In addition to funneling their salaries back to the North Korean regime, the IT workers look for opportunities to infiltrate the companies and steal from them. And that is what is alleged in the indictment unsealed today. Specifically, the indictment alleges that in October of 2019, the defendants, using North Korean travel documents, traveled to the United Arab Emirates, where they worked as a team. In approximately December of 2020, Kim Kwang-jin, using a stolen identity, was hired as a developer by an Atlanta, Georgia-based blockchain startup. And in May 2021, Jong Pong-ju, using a fake name, was hired by a Serbian virtual token company. These defendants concealed their North Korean identities from their employers by providing false identification documents that contained a mix of stolen and fraudulent identity information. Over a period of months, the indictment alleges that the defendants gained their employers' trust by completing projects. Eventually, Kim Kwang-jin and Jong Pong-ju were assigned projects that provided them access to their employers' virtual currency assets. In February of 2022, Jong Pong-ju allegedly used that access to steal virtual currency then worth approximately $175,000. A month later, Kim Kwang-jin allegedly did the same thing, stealing currency then worth approximately $740,000. To launder the funds after the thefts, Kim Kwang-jin and Jong Pong-ju allegedly used a virtual currency mixer and then transferred the funds to virtual currency exchange accounts controlled by their co-defendants Kang Tae-bok and Chang Nam-il. These virtual currency exchange accounts were held in fake names and were opened using fraudulent documents. We are announcing these charges today to help the public understand the risks that are presented by state-sponsored cyber criminals. Metro Atlanta is a technology hub that is home to numerous virtual currency businesses and the Georgia Institute of Technology. Our tech entrepreneurs need to be aware of this danger, and we want to encourage public dialogue on ways to address the threat. The virtual currency world values swift innovation and, in some circles, privacy and anonymity. It is not uncommon to meet potential business partners and employees online. But if companies that work in this space want to protect themselves, they would be wise to hire Americans and to thoroughly vet all potential employees and business partners. Potential employees who are only known through online chatting and short video conferences could be scheming to rip you off. I'm now going to hand things over to Assistant Special Agent in Charge Ellis, who will speak more generally about North Korea's remote IT worker threat and protective steps that can be taken.
Hey, thank you. Good afternoon. Again, I'm Peter Ellis. I'm one of the Assistant Special Agent in Charge here at the Atlantis Field Office. So yes, there are a few steps you can take in safeguarding your business and some things you can look for when hiring IT workers. When you're hiring IT workers, when you do video conferences, a lot of times you see these individuals, they're unwitting to be on these video conferences. And they do. A lot of times they change, the location, the time, their appearance may change as well. Other indications of these threats from North Korea IT workers is that they may be cheating on code tests or providing codes or unanswered codes to unemployment questionnaires and interview questions. These can include excessive pausing, stalling, and eye scanning. So when they do eye scanning and they're reviewing potential information off of ChatGPT as well. Also look at their social media. Their social media may be different from what they provided their personas. When sending out provision laptops or IT equipment, make sure you check on where that's being sent. A lot of times you use freight forwarding addresses, or they may be changing their addresses when they get first hired. When you look at their education, a lot of the educations come from Asia. They may be from China, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, and also see if where they work exclusively, and a lot of that is United States, Canada, and the Republic of Korea. For language preferences for their laptops and their computers, for their keyboards, they set that as for Korean, even though they say they're from non-Korean speaking countries. Some steps that you can do to protect yourself or protect companies. When conducting background checks, don't accept background checks from these individuals. They may say they're utilizing local background checks, but you need to do your own background checks. Request voided checks or other checks to look to see where they're depositing that money. A lot of times you can look at routing numbers, but just ensure that they're actually sending money to financial institutions. Keep records of interviews and other interactions with these individuals to be able to go back and review as well. If you do send laptops for the remote piece, please block out having them have access to the entire system, especially administrative access to that. And if you do, use insider threat monitoring software to be able to scan these systems as well. When you do send out devices, have them sign it when required for signature and delivery. When you're verifying individuals, you can ask to see their identity or their identification cards. A lot of times it's licenses or passports, but don't be trusting these as well because they could fake these and forge these. If you can, have them notary to verify their identity as well. Other steps to do as well is geolocate their laptops. Don't just ensure that they're just staying in the same location. And you can verify this geolocation with their login as well. And if you do have freelancers working for your companies, have them turn off their VPNs when logging into your accounts because you want to verify that they're actually logging in from the location they said they are. These are just a number of steps that you can use to help safeguard or identify these North Korean IT workers as well. But these are always changing and ongoing. So keep abreast of what the information is out there. You can go to our website at ic3.gov to see the latest changes in these. And you can also go to OFAC Treasury as well to review these. Thank you so much.
Questions, yeah. Just to be clear, do you believe that they were working as agents for the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or they were acting independently in their fraudulent activities?
The belief is that they were acting on behalf of the North Korean regime. North Korea is a repressive, murderous, totalitarian state. These individuals would not have been able to leave North Korea and go to the United Arab Emirates on their own and perpetrate this scheme. And this is something that is part of a larger pattern of activity that the Department of Justice has been pursuing. It should be noted that the reason why this is such a significant threat is because the money that is stolen doesn't go to these individuals, but instead does go to the regime to fund things such as weapons projects, which results in global instability and threats to the United States and our allies.
You said that these four were working as a team. How broad do you think that this team actually could be? Do you think it's isolated to these four?
So this is one indictment that is unsealed today. There are other actions that have been taken by grand juries in other districts as well, also being announced today. And so this is not something that's isolated to these 4 individuals. This is a threat posed by the North Korean regime to the United States.
How long do you think this takes back?
I'm not in a position to answer that.
Did you have, I guess, cooperation of UAE people there? Were they working with FBI to help you?
We did receive cooperation from a number of foreign law enforcement partners.
Is there any chance of extradition? Obviously, North Korea is not a country amicable with the U.S. Is there a chance that these 4 guys will see justice for that?
There is certainly the hope, but that is also the concern here with these schemes, which is not only is it possible that we may not be able to get the perpetrators, we may not be able to recover the lost assets either. And so that requires vigilance so that people don't fall prey to schemes like this.
And I know this blockchain is incredibly confusing to folks. If you could explain it like to a 5-year-old, how would you explain this scheme?
For that, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant United States Attorney Koshel.
Thank you. So the question is about how the blockchain works generally, or in terms of.
In this scheme specifically, how did these guys get this money?
So the indictment alleges that the defendants in both cases gained access to source code and other business information for the victim companies and modified that source code in order to move funds that belong to the companies. So in one instance, speaking specifically about the Atlanta-based victim, there was a modification of something called a smart contract, and within that smart contract, there were funds that were associated with it. In a smart contract, I think you can think of it as a vending machine, for example. So when somebody, like when you want to go get a candy bar, you go to the machine, you put your money in, you punch in a code, it gives you something back. You know when you interface with that machine what you're expecting, and the machine knows that you're going to pay it in order to get a product back. A smart contract is something like that that operates on a blockchain, which is publicly accessible. So when, in the instance of the victim here in the district, the indictment alleges that the defendants were able to modify a smart contract that lives on a blockchain in order to cause funds that were previously associated with that smart contract and were used for funding purposes to move that money to another location that was controlled by the defendants. Without, I could talk further about this, and it might be better to do that in a setting where we can sit down and I can walk you through it a little bit more, but that's the gist of how it works. And kind of more generally, the way to think about a blockchain is that it is a publicly accessible ledger that everyone can see. So in almost every instance, blockchains are decentralized public ledgers, maybe not in every instance, but in almost every instance, the types of scenarios that we would see, the instances where we see blockchains in cybercrime, it's a publicly accessible ledger that can be queried by anybody, including you, if you wanted to go home and see what was happening on the blockchain. It's kind of like it's a public set of records that can be queried to get information from. And the smart contracts that we're talking about live on that blockchain and can be interfaced with through public, internet access.
So is it like I put my money into the vending machine, but the candy bar goes to somebody else?
Yeah, that's kind of, that's, without getting to the specifics of what, the precise things that occurred, but in a simple way, yes, that's right, in that the funds were accessed, the smart contracts were modified in order to cause the money to move somewhere else that was not intended by Company One. That's what the indictment alleges.
I guess if you want to really break it, if you have a family with a shared bank account, you had somebody impersonating, let's say, the daughter, and transferred funds out of the account to somewhere else without anybody knowing about it, somewhere like that.
That's another way, that's another way of thinking about it. That's correct. And the way that the indictment alleges that the way that the defendants were able to do this is by gaining employment, building trust with the victim company, doing work for the victim company, and over time, the allegations are that the defendants were able to gain the trust and thereby get access to this valuable piece of information, how the smart contracts work and access to the smart contracts. So it is, as U.S. Attorney Hertzberg said, a long con that people need to keep in mind when they hire folks who they are not able to physically verify who they are, that who you're dealing with is a complete unknown. And they could be working for a while before they get access to something that is worth stealing, and then your entire business could be, decimated by someone who you have no idea who they actually are.
I guess even though it's expensive, would you recommend, if at all possible, it's worth it in the long run for face-to-face before employment?
Yes, that would be the best practice for sure, and that is something that U.S. Attorney Hertzberg mentioned, is that hiring well-trained Americans who have the skills to work on these computer technologies is the safest bet.
Do you think that there is a possibility that there are more of these folks who have not been uncovered? Like, we had a lot of safety advice for folks who are in the process of hiring, but, how much of a red flag or an alarm is this sounding today for lots of companies out there right now?
So this should be an alarm bell and a red flag for companies. And today, earlier at about 1 o'clock, I believe there was some sort of press conference in DC in which there were additional efforts related to the North Korean threat that were announced. So this, just speaking not specifically about this indictment, but just generally about the remote IT worker threat, this is a known scheme that has been observed by law enforcement, where individuals from North Korea infiltrate U.S. businesses and work there. In some instances, they work there, and in other instances, they work there and when given an opportunity are able to steal funds or steal other things as well. That's not the specific allegation. The things I've mentioned are just kind of more general understanding of this scheme, and you've asked a couple different ways, is this bigger than just these 4 individuals? I think it's safe to say, in general, this is an observed phenomenon that, yes, it is more than just these 4 individuals in this indictment.
Are you able to say, whether or not?
Yes.
Are you able to say whether or not, if you know, or are you able to say whether or not these funds that have been stolen from businesses here and everywhere else have actively been employed into some of those destabilization efforts or attacks or anything? We know you said the money's going to the weapons program. Have they been able to make something solid from that?
I can't comment on that right now.
Okay.
Can you tell us how long it took them to figure out what to go? Or did they figure out and report it, these companies? Or how long did it take before they did that?
I'd be happy to let ASAC Ellis answer if you'd like. I can
say,
provide.
Would you suggest companies maybe go through kind of go through their books, just to make sure there's nothing going on like that they might not even know about?
I think speaking in general, I think generally speaking, these are the types of events that a company that deals in virtual currency would be aware of, because the proximity of the timing would be something that would cause the person to know that they've been defrauded. So I believe that it is unlikely that somebody would unwittingly have a substantial sum of money stolen and not have identified it if they're working in this particular industry in decentralized finance.
So that once the money is stolen, do the fake employees just kind of take off?
I can't speak specifically to what's anything beyond what's in the indictment.
Does the indictment say how the Atlanta company found out?
The indictment does not state how the company found out.
Peter, anything else you'd like to?
No, go back to it. You do have to verify. You trust these employees, but you got to verify. You got to go back. I mentioned conduct thorough background checks, as the U.S. Attorney said as well. It's best to have these face-to-face meetings, but if you can't, you got to do everything you can to safeguard this, because this is a threat out there. I think a lot of the information we get is we have a lot of underreported information just across the most crimes that we have is underreported. So I encourage everybody, if you see this, got to report it. If you see it actively, don't wait to report it, because there are things that we can do to help as well to identify these. If you have any ideas that these individuals could be an IT worker, just contact us and we can help figure that out and work with you. But if you do see it, contact your local FBI offices. Again, I brought up the ic3.gov, but please report it. Thank you.
Thank you.